This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson. Yes. Hello. Welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. My name is Harry Wilkinson. I am your host. And this is the show in which we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world of politics, happenings in international news, everything that affects our lives, everything that comes to us through the various forms of media that surround us these days, whether they are our new media platforms, smartphones or tablets or social media, or more traditional forms through the news networks, the 24-hour news cycle, or just the old-fashioned radio in the car as you're driving to and from work or running errands or what have you. All of these forms of information, if you will, or platforms, are increasingly bombarding us with information. They're increasingly nonstop. And that's, an effect of or a byproduct of the amazing technology that we have these days that allows such instant access to all kinds of information that normally, we can't say normally anymore, but years ago, it would take much longer to retrieve or find out about. And that the positive thing is that you do have this ability to communicate instantaneously. The downside of that is that I believe that it does cause quite a bit of stress. We are barely a month and a half into 2018, and it seems to me, and I'm pretty sure it seems to a lot of other people, as if it's already been very stressful. And a lot of it has to do with this instant access of information. So what we do on this show is we take a look at these stories that are being told, the information that's coming to us that can often feel overwhelming, anxiety causing, button pushing, or just kind of annoying and eye rolling at the very least. We take a look at these things from a higher perspective. And by that I mean, if you've listened to the show before, I come from what I think of as a metaphysical or spiritual perspective on these things. My point of view is that we are more than just our physical bodies, and that we exist at the highest level of what I often refer to as divine mind, or a level of consciousness that is beyond the physical bodies that we wear on a daily basis, and that from that level we create everything around us. For very specific reasons, we are creating the world we are experiencing through these avatars of our bodies. And we do it to have these experiences, ultimately to empower us and to remind ourselves of the powerful creators that we are and the truth of who and what we are. So often we connect on such a level where we begin to feel like the truth about us is that we are weak, that we are stumbling, that we are inadequate, that we're struggling, that we are confused, that we are perhaps angry or sad or in crisis or in difficult straits. all of these things that we connect to, and these are identifiers that we have that are not the truth about who and what we are. Not in the least. Although it may appear, for whatever reasons, in the illusion matrix, if you will, or the I like to think of it as a virtual reality sphere. The illusion may be fear or concern or weakness or uncertainty. The illusion may be your feeling of powerlessness or your feeling of frustration. But that is the illusion that is being created. And it's being created for you to be able to experience it, connect with it in a different way, and understand the truth about it. Understand that we are creating all of these things, and they're all magnificent creations. And they lead only one place, to the best and highest part of ourselves. And it can be so hard to remember that in the midst of it all. Which is why I do things like this show and other meditations and things like that to remind me when I need it the most. And this is one of these weeks that, I really need it. And so hopefully this is helpful to whoever might be listening as well. So I love to hear your comments, anything that you would like to say about the show. I've added a new segment. If you've listened to the show before, this is a new part of the show where at the end I do a meditation for different types of things, whether it be relaxation, which is what it's going to be for this week, or whether it be for anxiety or for spiritual meditation. I do a guided meditation at the end, which you are welcome to use in any way that you see fit. Since this is a podcast, you can listen to it over and over again. You can pause it when you need to, run it back when you want to. And it's all available. So if you're listening to it now on Spreaker, you can certainly download it. You can also access it at my Facebook page, which is H. Wilkinson Media, HWILKINSON Media, and that will take you right to the Metaphysical Media page, where you'll find postings of past shows, articles of interest, and other things that might be helpful to you on your journey through spirituality and wellness. So please do check that out. You can leave messages for me there. You can connect with me at Spreaker as well. I'd love to hear from you and any requests you might have of topics to talk about and meditations that we might want to focus on. But today, as I said, our focus is relaxation, because as I've said, we are about almost a month and a half into the new year. And to my mind, it usually takes this long. And the Chinese New Year, by the way, is right around the corner. And it's usually up into Chinese New Year before the New Year really begins to settle with me and with others. And you really feel into it. It's a slow transition from the previous year to the new one. And often it's kind of slow and unwinding. This year I found it to be quite stressful. And I've heard from others as well, having this feeling of, already this is such an overwhelming year. It's barely begun. So I figure we should find some ways to relax into this new year that we are in. So I'm going to talk about a yoga pose that we've got to help you do that. I'm going to talk about blood pressure and how to bring that down. You know, blood pressure is one of those things where, you know, when you go to a doctor's office, that's like the first thing they do. Once you're in the office, is you know, strap the old blood pressure thing on your arm, and then they take your blood pressure. Mine is often very high because I'm sitting in a doctor's office. And depending on how long I've had to wait, depending on what the traffic was like coming over, and just a sense of, you know, nervousness of you know, going to the doctor. You don't know what you're going to find out. You know, not that you're anticipating anything terrible. It's just the whole process of going there. These are all things that raise your blood pressure. And I've noticed now the doctors begin to, you know, come back and take blood pressure several times during the course. So as you begin to settle your blood pressure, to see if it goes lower. And I've been in some cases where I've been asked to come back the next day so that they could check my blood pressure. So I'm going to give you a handy tip on how I bring my blood pressure down right where I am. If I'm in that situation, I'm in the doctor's office, nurse is telling me blood pressure is pretty high. I do my breathing meditation. It's the 4, 7, 8 breath meditation. That is sort of the easiest. So it's just a breathe in of 4 counts. You hold for 7, and then let go for 8. And while you do the breathing, you relax your body starting from the top of your head and all the way down to your toes. And I found that doing this for just a few minutes, by the time they come back with the blood pressure thing and take it again, I'm calmer. I'm bringing my stress level down, and it shows in the blood pressure numbers. So, you know, blood pressure numbers also are, I mean, the whole process of the blood pressure numbers can be confusing because it does fluctuate, as I've said. So now recently, it used to be that the top number was about 140 or lower. That was a normal blood pressure range. But apparently there's been some new research where they are saying that it should now be 120. But that does seem to be the normal, you know, blood pressure as it's defined by the standard medical practice, which is 120 over less than 80. But, you know, people are not standard. They don't come in standard issue sizes or blood pressure numbers. So quite often, you know, you might be higher than that. A high range, for instance, of 140 over something between the 80 to 89 range, that could show beginnings of hypertension. And you should try to lower it with dietary change. But as I've said, sometimes that blood pressure changes just because of what's going on around you and your mental state. So I find the blood pressure to be imprecise, but you know, I'm not a doctor, so I can't really give advice on that kind of thing. I can just pass along our knowledge and my experience, and you know, take it for what it's worth. The latest word on blood pressure goals comes from a study presented in September of 2016 at the American Heart Association's Council on Hypertension.